Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Could 2024 just chill like a little bit? Just a little bit. This year has been banger after banger after banger in terms of video games, and I am loving it. But there's just so much good stuff to play right now. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. One of these games, another Crab's Treasure. I saw this game when it first got announced on TikTok. Well, I'm sure not just TikTok, but that's where I saw it. Like a year ago, maybe more. And I was immediately interested in this game. And I have just eagerly been waiting for it for this whole time. And it is finally here. Now, before we really get into the review, I just want to let you know that I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers with this review. However, I will be talking about the first map area of the game and a little bit of the second, because I think there's some really important stuff in the second area that needs to be talked about. Besides that, I will not be talking about anything past that point. This is just kind of how I feel about the game. I'll talk about the intro to the story a little bit, but I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. Another Crab's Treasure is a Souls-like. Some people, not me, I didn't come up with this, but I love it, have been referring to it as Dark Shells, and I just think that's adorable. This game, I feel like, really understands the Souls-like genre as a whole. Like, even the button mapping for controllers, I'm not sure about keyboard or mouse, but I'm sure it's the same, but at least for controllers, is mapped really similar to how you'd be playing a FromSoft official Souls game, or Elden Ring, or Bloodborne, or whatever. And 100%, I think that was what the goal of the game was. Let's just make a super hard Souls games, but make it cute and adorable. Which, for me, is perfect. I love the Souls games. I've put like 80 hours into Elden Ring. That is the one I've played the most, and I've played Dark Souls 1, and I've played some Demon Souls, but if I'm being just 100% honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the aesthetic. I'm not saying it's bad, I actually think it's super interesting, it's super unique, and I really value it for that. But it's just not my vibe. I don't necessarily enjoy looking at it as much as some other people might, if that makes sense. I think it's hard wanting to put so much time into a series, but knowing like, visually it's just not my thing, you know? Because, I mean, you spend all that time looking at it, right? You want to enjoy what you're looking at. I hope that makes sense. And that's what I really love about Another Crab's Treasure, because it's just so cute. It's so cute. I love the art style. I just think it's so fun, but it still has the challenge of a Souls game, which I think I want to circle back to, but I want to talk about something else that this game does really well, and that is platforming. The best way to describe this game, I think, would be to take like Dark Souls and like Super Mario 64 and put them together, because you have the Souls-like aspect of it, but then you have the 3D platform aspect of it, which I think is really neat. There's a lot of obviously platforms that you can kind of jump around, but then you're in the ocean, you can jump and swim just a little bit. I haven't found a way to increase my swimming stamina, but I'm sure there is one in the game at some point. And then you also have a grappling hook, which you can use for combat, but you can also use to like swing around the map or swing over to nets, which you can grab on and be pulled to then climb up. And I just really like that aspect of it. While it does have a lot of Souls influence, I think this platforming side of it gives the game its own voice, if that makes sense. It makes it feel unique. It makes it feel like it's not just a soulless clone. And I love that. And then, obviously, we're talking about, like, mascot 3D platformers. Kril is so cute. He's just a cute little guy. He's just a cute little hermit who had his home stolen, and he just wants to get it back. And you know what? He got stolen for tax evasion, which is hilarious. But not only that, like, I heard that before I started playing the game, which I thought it was funny. But then you go in and you play the game and you realize it got stolen for tax evasion on taxes he didn't even know he was supposed to be paying. The guy just shows up and was like, hey, by the way, you need to pay taxes now. Oh, you can't? Yoink! And steals his home. poor Kril. I feel for Kril. He definitely fits the main character, mascot, platformer vibe. Okay, let's jump back to actual gameplay. Souls-like. This game is so freaking hard, dude. This game is so freaking hard. The first two bosses, which I apologize, my gameplay for the first boss got corrupted, but I do have gameplay from this boss. Not that bad. The first one took me maybe 4 or 5 attempts, which was hard, but nothing compared to a actual Souls-like game. The second boss I beat on my second try, by a pretty good margin too. It was not like I beat this man. And I was sitting there like, has everyone saying this is a Souls-like just been lying? Like, the game's difficult, but not Souls difficult. And then I got to the third boss, the Duchess, and when I tell you this woman kicked my butt, she destroyed me over and over and over and over and over again. I fought her more times than I fought a lot of the Elden Ring bosses. This was the fight that made me realize, like, oh, okay, all right, this game is actually really hard. I like the challenge of it. But on the other hand, I am a person that I can only try so many times before I start getting frustrated and just won't return to the game. And I think something that this game does really, really well is it has a ton of accessibility options for changing the difficulty. So you can increase your parry window, you can increase your damage, you can lower enemy damage, you can give Kril a gun that will one-shot any boss, which I think is hilarious. I've not done that option yet. I want to do a full playthrough, if I can, on its hardest difficulty. That's the goal. But I just really love that they have all of these options. And there's even one where you don't lose microplastics on death, which we'll talk about microplastics in a second. Again, just all these options to really hone the game to the difficulty that you would like it to be at. And I really, really like that. There's even a message in the loading screen that's like, hey, if you're not having fun, like, turn down the difficulty. Like, that's totally okay. And I vibe with that. Okay, let's talk about microplastics. Microplastics are like the souls from Souls games. So there's not really much I can say about it that hasn't been said before, but I think that's really interesting, especially the story that they're telling with this game. It's not a serious game at all. It's very lighthearted. There's a lot of jokes. But in it, this society has formed itself. It's an underwater society that has formed itself and its currency around the trash that has fallen from the sky. Like, there's a scene in the second area where they're literally, like, praising the heavens as trash just rains down from the sky because they're so happy and that it's their currency and blah, 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 blah. And, like, I don't know. I'm someone that really cares about the ocean and the trash in the ocean. And I really just appreciate that there's a game that's bringing attention to it because there is trash literally everywhere. It's the microplastics, the currency in the game. It's people's homes, but it's also your shells, which is something else I think this game does really, really well, is you lose your home, which is Kril's shell, and so as you're playing through the game, you find other shells, and each shell has a different ability, and most of it is trash. Most of it is trash. So there's like a red solo cup that you can get that gives you the Drunken Claw ability, which increases damage but lowers your dodge and I think parry window as well. There's a coconut. The coconut's my favorite, where you do like a spinning attack. There's a yogurt bottle that will slowly heal you over time. There's a banana. I'm not sure what the banana does, but it's literally just a banana peel. And there's a ton of different options for the shells. What I really like about the game is it wants you to play a little more turtley, if that makes sense. It wants you to take hits. It wants you to constantly be shifting between shells. Like every boss battle, there's gonna be shells kind of scattered around that you can pick up throughout the fight. Like, you're not supposed to just have one shell and stick with it the entire time. And I really like that. I think it, again, makes the game feel unique, makes it feel like it has its own voice. again, like I was mentioning, they make the trash a vital part of the game, which I really appreciate the fact that they're bringing attention to this. Okay, let's talk about the second area. You kind of have like a hub world that you can return to with multiple shops and a blacksmith. The blacksmith 100% is like the blacksmith in Elden Ring, like pretty much doing the exact same animation, which I thought was really funny. Sorry, just Souls-like connections. They also have an area called the Sands Between, which I thought was amazing, and I love that. But I love the blacksmith. He's literally a lobster with prosthetic limbs. There you can upgrade your fork, which is your sword, and then there's a pawn shop where you can sell trash. Again, that's the currency of the world, or you can buy other things. There's a stowaway area, which I haven't talked about stowaways. Stowaways are attachments that you can give to your shell that give you different effects, like more health, more attack. There's one that's a little fish friend that will help you come fight. I love that one because you can stop and pet it. More games should give us more animals to pet. That's all I'm saying. You can insure your shells. You can buy more shells in this town, or you can insure them, which there are these like magical shells around the world. I can't remember exactly what they're called at this moment, but they're the campfires. You go there to level up like you would in a Souls game. And at these locations, you can, if you've insured a shell, you can start from that fireplace with that shell, which I think is really great. It's not something I see myself personally doing because you can find so many shells around the world, but I just think it's really cool you have that option. Ooh, something I should have talked about when I was talking about the shells, because they're connected, is this game does have a magic system. It's called umami. Oh wait, I did talk about them a little bit already. Sorry, I just remembered. I just didn't mention the fact that they're called umami. It's the magic abilities that your shells give you that I mentioned before. That's what those are. But there's another ability called adaptations. Adaptations, maybe? I think it's adaptations. I've only unlocked one, and it's what you get from beating the first real boss of the game, the Duchess, the one I mentioned that kicked my butt over and over and over again. Really cool ability. You get this like magic claw that has this wide sweep that hits enemies, and then from there, for a limited amount of time, you deal extra damage to any enemy that got hit by the royal claw, which is so nice. Now, there are a bunch more. That's the only one I've unlocked so far, but I'm super excited to try it out. Also, this game has phenomenal music. This game's music is so good. Like, just take a listen to this. But also, this. I have never said this about a video game because it's not something I really feel the need for. I would spend money to buy this soundtrack. I love video game soundtracks, but I feel pretty content getting to listen to them in the game as God designed. But there's just something about this soundtrack that makes me feel so hyped. I really would. I would spend money to get this soundtrack. Also, I was really sad because I looked up how long the game was, the typical, how long to beat website, blah, 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 blah. Only 2 people had actually answered when I looked it up, and they both said it was roughly around 13 to 15 hours, which is where I'm at right now, just for clarification. I'm sitting just about 14 hours. And I was so sad when I saw this, because I was like, oh man, this game is so amazing, and I just wish there was more of it, if that makes sense. No, I'm pretty sure they beat the game with a gun, which is valid, 100% valid. I feel like I have barely scratched the surface of this game. Like, I am in the 4th area. Like I said, I only have one of the adaptations. I've barely seen any of the shells. I'm nowhere near getting my shell back. Like, there is so much game left. And that makes me really, really happy and excited because, I don't know, I really love this game. I'm hyper fixating on it, and I want to put 100 hours in, and I probably will. Especially with how hard the bosses are. I'm sorry, the Duchess, man. That was the 3rd boss in the game. That was the 3rd boss. She was so hard. She was so hard to beat. Anyway, I highly recommend this game. It is on Game Pass currently, if you have it. If it wasn't on Game Pass, I would feel pretty content and happy spending actual money to purchase this. It runs so smooth. and it plays smooth, and the story's good, the music's good, the combat's good. It's really hard. There's so many options to hone the game how you want it. The shells all having different abilities gives you so many options on how to play. There being different adaptations gives you options on how to play. There's just so much to this Little Crab's journey, and I really think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, or your home will also be stolen for tax evasion. Goodbye now!